Welcome to another Jew and Gentile podcast. I am your host, Chris Katulka, and with me is none other than the Jewish sage himself, the Hanukkah box deliverer, the one and only Mr. Steve Herzig. How are you, sir?
I am great. Just left the streets of Philadelphia.
Dangerous place. Dangerous.
It was great. I kept seeing signs, "We stand with Israel."
Really?
Everywhere I went, "We stand with Israel." That was great. It's a Jewish neighborhood, but...
Well, you were delivering Hanukkah boxes.
I was delivering, and a couple guys said, "Hey, it's kind of early." I said, "At least we're showing up." He said, "That's true."
Too early for them, huh?
Well, he took the gift.
Well, welcome in. That's right. You know, every year we do a Hanukkah box delivery. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Before we move on, we're in our end of the year fundraising time because this does not happen. The Jew and Gentile podcast, FOI Equip, does not happen without your help. You know, we like to give away as much as we possibly can to keep you engaged, to keep you encouraged in the Lord, to keep you thinking and praying about Israel and the Jewish people. But you know what? We need your help because the friends of the FOI Equip that sponsors the Jew and Gentile podcast, it's not just the podcast. We have people all around the world who are serving in Jewish communities, and we want you to be a part of that. In fact, right now, Steve, some of our interns that we have, our FOI Equip interns, some of them are in LA right now as we speak, and as they're in LA, they're out engaging with the local Jewish community. They're going to be handing out Hanukkah baskets, going to college campuses, running a Hanukkah party at Masters University. They're
Wait, whoa.
Yeah.
A Hanukkah party. Now, some people might not know what Masters University is. You got to tell them.
Well, that's the university that's kind of connected to John MacArthur and his church.
It's a Christian university.
That's right.
So we're having a Hanukkah party at Masters.
100%.
And all done because of Tikvatim.
All because of Tikvatim. They're going to be volunteering in the Jewish community of LA as they hang out with one of our missionaries out there who is connecting them to various ways of encouraging them to do ministry. And so really when you give to FOI Equip, you're not just giving to teaching and you're not just giving to the podcast. You're actually giving to transformative life change as people are out sharing the good news of Jesus, the Jewish Messiah. And we want you to participate in that. When you give to FOI Equip, it's absolutely amazing because you get the opportunity to engage in programs when you give, like Bridges, which is training people in just 9 weeks' time to engage with their local Jewish community, or Encounter, which connects people with the Jewish community face-to-face as they go to New York City or Philadelphia or New Jersey, as Christians get a chance to go into the Jewish community and do a Hasidic Jewish walking tour. It's amazing. Or maybe Origins, our volunteer/missions trip to Israel and Hesed. So many things. In fact, Steve, we're planning our Encounter Poland trip where young adults... 2026, where young adults will get a chance to go over and to engage with the Jewish community in Poland and to learn about Holocaust education. We're doing so much, and that's why we need your help. So one of the big things that we would really like is we're trying to raise $25,000 by the end of the year.
Tell them our theme.
Our theme is really... Why don't you tell them the theme?
Well,
I've been talking the whole time over here. I'm working overtime.
You do a great job. You're the radio voice of FOI. No, we had Jordan Sutter, who is here. Who is she in L.A.?
She's in L.A. right now,
So she's in L.A. She has been serving with us since September. All the interns' time is running down to the middle of December, so this is their kind of farewell internship project.
That's right.
But she was here in the podcast room, and we interviewed her, and one of the questions that came up is, hey, what led you, especially since she wants to be a mortician, she's going to be a mortician.
That's amazing.
She starts in January. So what led you to be an intern here with FOI? And she said... because you asked me.
That's right.
Chris Katulka, asked her, and she responded. And immediately I said to you, that's it, because you asked. Mm-hmm. And look, as a podcast, we are ministering. We're doing it. We talk about free. Everything's free. The download of Messiah in Christmas is Finding Him in Christmas is free. You download that. Our stickers are free. All that's free. But when she said, because you asked, I think there's some people out there who listen, who have the capability of giving, but might not even have thought about it. So I said to you, Chris, let's ask them.
We got to ask.
Let's ask if they would consider giving to the ministry here at Friends of Israel, particularly in North American ministries.
That's right. Because we asked, she responded, and we're asking you, would you help us? We'd like to try to raise $25,000. Steve and I, part of those funds, actually, we're about to take a group of about
Leaders.
18 Christian leaders. That includes pastors, people in Christian ministry, parachurch ministries that are all leaders that have never been to Israel before, have always wanted to go.
And man, are they excited. You already you started a revolution online, a text revolution. All of a sudden, my phone, to use the vernacular, blew up. It blew up. I was getting pictures, and I could hardly wait to go. Here's a picture of my family. They're excited. I've never been to Israel. These are all pastors and leaders.
That's right. And so we're able to get them over to Israel. Steve and I will be leading that tour for them, and we're very excited about it. And we're going to engage them with what actually Jewish ministry looks like in Israel, where actually being Jewish is the majority, not the minority. So all these things, I could go on and on, Steve. We could tell you stories of people who have been blessed by our ministry, who have been trained by our ministry, equipped by our ministry, who are now serving full-time with Friends of Israel or volunteering with Friends of Israel. Either way, when you give, we promise it's making a transformative life change, not only in the lives of believers, but also in the lives of the Jewish community, the Jewish people that are living in various communities as our people that are getting trained by us are engaging. And the way that you can give is by simply going to FOI Equip .org let me rewind. FOIEquip.org, and then when you get to the website, go to the donate page. You'll see a donate button right at the top. Again, by going
That's much easier. I don't like that / business.
Well, it's in my brain.
It complicates every / this, / that, backspace this. Forget about it. Go to FOI.org.
Wrong. You're wrong already.
FOIEquip.org. And there you'll find the donate button.
That's right. FOIEquip.org, and you'll see the donate button. And you know what, people, Steve, they're going to say, you asked and I was about to do it, but I couldn't find a place you wanted me to go donate. So again,
FOIEquip.org.
That's right. And there's a donate button. Please go ahead and do that. We would definitely be blessed by your
Chris,
participation in our ministry.
Chris, when I was delivering today, it was very interesting. Talk about engage. That's what we do. By the way, Tikva team people, not just in L.A., we have Tikva team people and other volunteers who are also helping, as well as staff. This is a full-orbed, every man and woman out there who has the capability and desire and the time to do it. And so we're all over the place delivering these boxes. And so when I delivered today, the first person I delivered to, I said, I know him very, very well. This is like the 6th year in a row we've given him a Hanukkah box. He was the guy that told me it's kind of early. But then I said, so how are you and your family doing? He said, not so good. And I said, oh, what's wrong? He said, I just read that 15% of 15 and younger Jewish young people are on the side of Hamas.
Wait, repeat that again?
He just told me, he said, I'm not doing that well because I just read a statistic that 15% of 15-year-old Jewish kids and under. So 15, I don't know how low you go after 15, but 15 or younger are on the side of Hamas.
Oh, my goodness.
And so I said, that's not a good number. I said, it's not surprising. There's less teaching of Judaism within the Jewish American community.
Yeah.
He said, I agree. I said, it reminds me of the book of Esther. And he said, what? I said, in the book of Esther, they were compromising. He told his cousin, don't tell anybody you're Jewish.
Yeah.
Being Jewish was a low idea. He said, but they were persecuted. I said, they had an out. Mm-hmm. Cyrus gave them an out and they refused to go. And he looked at me and he said, you're right.
You're talking about when Cyrus said you can go back to the land of Israel, but many of them stayed.
Business was good.
Yeah, but they had to mask their Judaism. They had to mask their identity they
become more assimilated. That's been from the time of the Exodus.
Yeah.
Read the Old Testament scripture. I call them the Older Testament, but read it and you'll find remember Pastor Neil? He just picked 3 judges out. And he was saying, this is depressing because every man did, and by the way, in the context, every man is every Jewish person.
That's right.
Did what was right in their own. We invented that. We invented doing what is right in our own eyes. And so when I told this, the man that I visited, great guy, and just said, they had a chance to go. They had a chance to go, and they didn't do it. And he said, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
That's what engage means. We, in just a friendly way, here, have a box for Hanukkah. Hanukkah is a great time. Have a box, and it's from Friends of Israel, given to you because we love the Jewish people. I always say, Happy Hanukkah, and you know what they say back to me? This is from Jewish people.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. They do, and they emphasize, every single one says, Merry Christmas. That's not necessarily easy for all Jewish people to do, but they know that we're a Christian organization, and they know that we remember a birthday, not necessarily on December 25th, but that's when we remember the birth of Jesus, and they say it with a smile on their face. They receive the gift, and then they say Merry Christmas. I respect that a lot.
Too. Yeah,
I think that's amazing.
And that I was just teaching our interns last night. We all get together on Tuesday nights, and we're one of the components of our we call it the 6 phases of Jewish ministry, and on the 7th phase you rest. Okay, so the 6 phases, we're in our 5th phase, which is sharing. That you go through all these things, and eventually you get comfortable in the relationship that you have, where you're able to talk about what you believe more. Because that's anytime you talk about what you believe, it can often be a hot topic issue. You know what I mean?
Well, I lead with mine. Hello, how are you? And here's what I believe.
I know you do.
People hate me. That's why I'm glad they're taking from you, because I do it the wrong way.
No. But it's the idea that it's exactly what you did yesterday. Is that in talking about sharing, I said a lot of times we feel that it's a part of our duty. Like we have to check the box to share about our faith. We have to check the box. When really, I think the bigger thing is remaining obedient to the Lord. Because I was giving them the history of Israel and saying, God chose Israel and put them in a place, and He didn't say, now share with everybody about who I am. It was actually supposed to be the way that they live and obedience to God in the land that would impact the nations around them.
And we've talked about that here on the podcast.
100%. And I use that as an example to show, when you're getting to that place where you're feeling more confident to share, your life as a testimony to the Lord Jesus is going to speak louder volumes than just simply talking and, with hot air and saying things. It doesn't mean God can't use that, but as you build relationships and as you deepen your relationships with the people that you're interacting with, they're going to see you living. And when they see the way that you live, they're going to have a greater respect for that because your actions speak louder than your words. And we had talked about this too in Leviticus 8 when Aaron was anointed high priest. God did not anoint his mouth. He anointed his ear for listening, his hand for doing, and his feet for going. He did not anoint his mouth. And so again, it goes to show that the way that we remain obedient to God is actually the greatest way of sharing about who we are, because we live it out then. We're not just speaking it, we're actually living it out on a daily basis. So, Steve, that's awesome that you had a chance to connect just today.
Oh, that's just today, and I'm delivering more of them. It's every year. I love doing it. I tell people who are afraid. There's some people who are afraid, maybe even some of our interns, and so I hope Nathan, when he gets a chance to talk to him, you're bringing a gift. No one has ever gotten mad. Honestly, I've talked to lots of people who've delivered these boxes. We've progressed. We started with baskets, and the stuff was falling all over the place, and it was harder to deliver. Now they're neatly in a box. Mm-hmm. It's really neat. And you come, and it says Happy Hanukkah on the box, and you walk up. If they see me coming, they open the door. Yeah. Welcome. Right. It's so good to see you. It's Hanukkah again. Because we've delivered before, and who's going to get angry? We're giving them Israeli stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
It's all from Israel. It's great stuff.
All right, so Steve, we are talking. It is a Christmas season, and we found this article online that is something that we've talked about in the past, but again, it kind of resurrects every Christmas because it becomes more and more of a reality for this actual city of Bethlehem, where you and I will be in the next 2 months. But this comes from Reuters. And it says, another bleak Christmas in Bethlehem as Christian families quit the West Bank. Bethlehem, for a second year running, there is no Christmas cheer in Bethlehem, this particular writer says, with tourists shunning the Palestinian city and many residents seeking a way out as the Gaza war grinds on. Bethlehem's manger square in front of the Church of the Nativity is the largest, largely deserted, and souvenir shops are shuttered. You know, I'll just say this. The writer is right. The Gaza war, it hasn't just affected what's going on in Bethlehem. It's affected what's going on in all of Israel as well. You know, what happens in Israel is going to happen in Bethlehem, because if there are no tourists coming in to visit all the locations, which in 2019, Israel had its highest number of tourists come that they've ever had before. And then the pandemic hit, and then they were just eking back into tourism again. And it was just all coming back. And then all of a sudden, October 7th, 2023 happened, and everything shut down. Really, the only airlines going to Israel now are El Al. And I know United Arab or the Emirates flies in as well. But that's it. I mean, nobody else is really coming in and going out. And so tourism is way, 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 way down right now. And so if tourism is way down in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, it's going to be way down in Bethlehem as well.
Well, you know, Chris, when I first went to Bethlehem, it was part of Israel. You didn't have to cross over. You now have to go, if it was open, you'd have to go through a checkpoint because it's part of Judea, Samaria, the West Bank. Mm-hmm. And so you have to go, the Palestinian Authority controls it. And when I first went in 1982, it was 80% Christian. We went and they had shops for Americans, Western people. So Americans, Australians, Canadians, they were all going to buy stuff from Bethlehem. And over the years, especially after Yasser Arafat negotiated to make it part of the Palestinian Authority, and the whole thing with Clinton and, that whole thing, it began to change. Mm-hmm. I mean, big time. First, the big shops that had all the souvenirs and all kinds of things from Bethlehem, Christian items to purchase, they began to close. They began to actually move to the Jewish side, the Israeli control side. And then they moved out completely. And today, Bethlehem is 15% Christian, and they're frightened. They're leaving like crazy.
It's even more. It says here, in the last year of the British rule over the region in 1947, some 85% of Bethlehem's population were Christian. As of 2017 census, the overall population of Bethlehem was 215,514, with only 23,000 Christians among them. That puts the percentage of Christians, that's 2017, in 2017 around 10%.
Yeah, so I thought 15. So it's low, and it's going to get worse.
You know, it's interesting because this particular journalist who writes, Mustafa Abu Ghania, he writes, and I think he blames Israel.
He does.
For
At
this.
The end of the article, you can read that.
Yep, and we put it up there for you to read.
That's not new, Chris. We're blamed for everything.
That's right. It's funny, and again, it's one of those things where they say, look, number one, a part of the Oslo peace agreements was to make Bethlehem a Palestinian-controlled territory.
Yep.
So, you had just mentioned, when you traveled for the first time, there was no Palestinian Authority. When Israel controlled Bethlehem, they provided security for Bethlehem, and 80% of the people living there were Christians. They were thriving. Tourism was probably great. It was very important. That city is very important. Then all of a sudden, they create a Palestinian Authority, begins to control it, and that means now there's Muslim control over it, and that's when you begin to see the decline over and over. And I'm sure the Gaza war doesn't help. If tourism is your big industry in Bethlehem, they can't blame Israel. Israel didn't do anything. It was the Palestinians that attacked Israel.
All I know is I still remember the first year after the first Christmas after Oslo agreement, Yasser Arafat was there and declared, this is the birthplace of the Palestinian Jesus.
Is that what he said?
Yep.
That's still a pretty common thing that people believe. They'll call Jesus the first Palestinian Christian.
Yep.
which is absolutely the most unbiblical thing. And we had mentioned last week that article about the Israeli woman who was playing Mary.
They're mad.
And they're mad about it. They're mad that a Jewish woman plays Mary.
How dare a Jewish person play Miriam?
That's right.
Crazy.
So anyway, be thinking about Bethlehem. There are still Christians that live in Bethlehem. They are very much a minority now. There are Christians that are still in Gaza. We need to be praying for them.
They're the untold story. No one's given any press to the Christians.
The only place Christianity is growing is in Israel. When we talk about the Middle East, if you look everywhere in the Middle East, Christianity has been squeezed out. A lot of they're just arguing from a perspective of Bethlehem. But if you look at the entire Middle East, Iraq, Syria, other areas, Libya, even Egypt, they squeeze Christians. They persecute them to the point where they leave. So it's funny that they blame Israel, which is the only country in the Middle East where Christianity is thriving and there's freedom for people to be Christians in Israel. But it's funny they blame Israel, but the reality is the entire Middle East that's controlled ultimately by Muslims or dictators or however you want to put it, they're squeezing out Christians to the point where they don't even exist anymore. But Israel, they're to blame, even though Christians are thriving and growing there.
Well, Chris, we can give our listeners an opportunity, all 7 of them. We can give them an opportunity if they haven't taken advantage of it yet. If they text 424-444-1948, Alice is already ready. She just did 25 packets because you sent her, when they text, it goes directly to you. You send her the info. She puts it together. I, of course, am the person who is schlepping the stuff.
You're the schlepper.
I'm the schlepper that takes it to Aaron, who ships them out. And so if they text at 424-444-1948 and say, I want stickers, and then give us their name and address, we will send them stickers that will enable them to demonstrate publicly they support Israel.
Share.
Their share. That's right.
Hey, how many stickers do you think we've given out already?
We estimate that we have given out about 10,000. Now, there's 50 per packet. And so I think we did 200 of 200.
So wait, there's 7 listeners and we've given out 10,000 stickers?
They're
that's
using
amazing.
False addresses.
I know, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. All right, Steve, you found an awesome article that we're going to be highlighting over the next few weeks.
We are going to be highlighting this, Chris. I'm actually researching an article that I'm got to see if I'm able to write. I've got to talk to our person, Jesse, who is... I forgot his title, but he's the one that oversees the magazine IMG. Managing editor, is that what he's called?
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jesse, and he does a great job. And I've from working with Lorna, who was the editor-in-chief at the time, now working with Jesse, I always talk to them about the article I do because it doesn't coincide with the theme of the magazine. So I want to make sure that he knows what I'm doing. And for whatever reason, if he thinks that's wise or not wise. Mm-hmm. Well, I haven't talked to him about it, but I got an idea. I pray about it. And I got an idea and said, I wonder why Jewish people are successful. I know we're the chosen people. We are the chosen people. That doesn't mean we're chosen to be successful, but God has chosen us. Just like, why did God choose Chris Katulka before the foundation of the earth? We don't know. Mm-hmm. He's sovereign. He chooses who he chooses. And he chose corporately the Jewish people, and statistically, they're successful.
Very successful.
I use my example all the time. I'm Jewish. I graduated from high school, 1,200 students. That's a lot of students. And I graduated in the top 10% of the lower third of my class. And that's true. But you got to know the backstory. 900 of the 1,200 graduates are Jewish. They're Jewish.
Yeah.
I think the first 200 went to either Harvard, Yale, MIT. That was not going to be my address ever. So by the time I get done with my schooling, compared to them, I'm glad I was in the top 10%. It could have been a whole lot worse. But so in researching, Chris, you and I are going to talk over the next couple of podcasts, at least 2 or 3, the 25 Jewish business insights for success. I found this online, Chris.
Wait, Steve, listen to this. You brought up the successes. Okay, this is a quote, or this is a statistic. Okay, Jewish people make up less than 1% of the world's population. So let that. Our
Are you
listeners,
going to the Nobel Prize thing? Of course you are.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, Jewish people make up less than 1% of the world's population. Okay, there's 15 million Jewish people in the world. There's 8 billion people in the entire world. Okay, Jewish people have been awarded. You ready? 22% of all Nobel Prizes since 1901. 22, almost a quarter of all of the Nobel Prizes have gone to a group of people that make up less than 1% of the entire world. That's amazing.
Well, just think, you're in a nursery at a hospital, and there's all these babies. A Jewish parent could say, he's got a good chance, she's got a good chance, a better chance than you of being a Nobel Prize
That's
winner.
right. Just statistically, it's the chances are good.
If anybody said that and pointed to me, sorry. Too bad.
What's your line again? You're the top of the low.
Top 10% of the lower third of my class.
Okay, there you go.
There you
Let's
go. So these are the 25 Jewish business insights for success. Number 25, Chris.
Now, we're not going through all of them today.
We're
just going to highlight.
No, we're going to do a few each day, but this is entertaining, at least to me. The first one, and by the way, they try to use the same first initial and the next initial, so they alliterate. Okay, shalom success. That's what it's called. Shalom success, and then it says cultivate peaceful growth.
This is
Get it?
Yes.
Get it? All right. In Jewish tradition, shalom signifies more than just peace. It encompasses completeness and well-being. Apply the principle of shalom to your business, cultivating growth that is not only successful, but also harmonious and sustainable.
Interesting.
Can't you? Shalom success.
That's right. Now, anytime I talk to a Jewish person and their success and how it's related to how their mom thinks about success and it's always interesting to hear about how the parents. It's almost like a comedic joke that the Jewish mom goes, but he's a doctor, and look at you, what are you doing? Or he's a lawyer, or your friend's a lawyer, but what are you doing? Is that shalom success, or what is that?
That's from
family
the
dynamic.
But that's family dynamic.
Yeah.
But the person, let's say the person entrepreneurial, which is really, yes, there are many Jewish doctors and lawyers, etc. But really, Jewish people are becoming better known as entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Israel's Startup, a book bestseller a number of years ago. And so the idea here is to take Jewish stuff and use it and apply it to the business model of success.
What was that? Shalom success.
Shalom's peaceful success. That's how it works. Completeness and well-being. Can't you just shalom success?
I know. I think we have the name of our company, Shalom. There we go.
So number 24 is matzo ball metrics. Matzo ball metrics. Measure what matters.
That is very important.
In the world of business, not all metrics are created equal. Focus on the matzo ball metrics, the key indicators that truly matter for your business. Analyze and adapt based on meaningful data rather than getting lost in the sea of irrelevant information. The matzo ball metrics. By the way, Alice and I, through the years of ministry, we've done many, many, many Passover demonstrations, even had dinners. And when we first started, we would do all the cooking. Alice and I would do at one time we had 200 people we had to cook for.
That's the matzo ball.
We were testing out matzo ball recipes, and there is a metric. You got to get it right.
Oh, yeah.
You got to get the ingredients right, and you got to make sure our matzo balls were cannonballs. The first one. I
was going to say, when you're talking about that, you're saying there are two ways a matzo ball can go. These things can be rock solid. You can barely cut them, or they can be loosey-goosey.
The first one I ate that I prepared, it went down out of my mouth. It was like dropping a stone in a swimming pool. It went way down. So the matzo ball metric is measure what matters. And now the third one, or number 23. We're going to go from the bottom of 25. Eventually, we'll get to the number 1. But number 23, great one, Torah talk.
Torah talk.
Torah talk, effective communication.
100%.
Effective communication is at the heart of successful businesses. Just as Torah scholars articulate their wisdom, business leaders must convey their vision clearly to teams, customers, and stakeholders.
That's amazing.
Communication in business, the number one violation in businesses.
Yeah.
Businesses don't always communicate with their employees, and there's problems. There are difficulties because they don't know what's happening. And then communicating to your customers, problem. But Torah's teaching, Torah talk, communicate.
Well, and it also is God communicated with us.
Exactly.
He didn't have to, but he did, and that's what we build our life upon is God's words to us.
100%. Okay, Chris, we're done with this. And what's our teaching? You know, we just finished with Neil. Oh, he did a great job. I've had comments from people. My sister is a listener, and she said, I like that Neil guy.
Yeah. Your sister, I know she likes me. Hello, Michelle.
Oh, she likes you and Rob.
Rob?
Rob
But you.
in Canada.
I was going to come back.
It's okay. You know, it's not bad, but it's not. You're not Chris.
Oh, I love
got
you,
the
Michelle.
radio voice.
I love you.
And you know what she says about Rob? She loves his spike white hair.
Oh yeah.
He's
the
got
silver
the
fox.
it factor.
He's the silver fox.
Silver fox.
We've never had Rob on the...
We got to get Rob
Rob's
on.
our director for our Canadian ministry and does a phenomenal job. But when you see him, you go, oh, yeah, he's a silver fox.
And
That's what
he's
he
the
is.
radio voice, really the podcast or TV voice, because he's on YouTube for Canada.
100%.
He does all the news about Israel from a Canadian perspective. And by the way, I'm glad he still has hair because Trudeau is in Canada and the leader in Canada. And I got to tell you, it's many of the Christians in Canada. And we're going to talk about one of them that probably drives Rob crazy, pulling his hair out because one of the news items we have is beyond understanding.
100%.
We'll talk about it.
Well, you know, I recently saw that Trump, when he was with Trudeau, was
That's right.
teasing.
Trudeau came all the way down to Mar-a-Lago.
That's right. And he was teasing, and Trump said, we'll make Canada the 51st state. And
Well, then he said, no, there's conservative side is the West and the more liberals on the right. So he said, okay, we'll make two states, one conservative and one liberal.
You know, I was thinking when I read that, the media... They're going to have the best 4 years of their life. They're just going to love. I mean, when he said that, I thought that's hilarious. Anyway, I know that there are Canadians that I don't know how many Americans are involved in Canadian politics, but Canadians pay attention to American
Very
politics.
much so. In fact, I would tell you, in my experience, Canadians and Israelis know more about U.S. news than Americans.
I agree with you.
Proportionately.
I agree with you. Whenever we go up to Canada and we speak, and we get invited to come speak up in churches and be a part of the conferences that we do up there, and whenever we get up there, they're anxious to talk about what are you
doing?
What are you guys doing down there?
What are you guys doing? It's like we control it, you know?
I've never met an American go, what are you Canadians doing? I don't even know if they could tell you Trudeau is the prime minister. But all that to say, we love our Canadian. We got Canadian listeners too. A few of our 7 are Canadian. We love them up there.
Amazing. Well, Chris, there's still a way. I know we're already started December, but Finding Messiah in Christmas is still available as a download for free.
That's right.
And tell them how they can get that download.
You can get Finding Messiah in Christmas, a 25-day devotional, but you can do whatever you want with it during the month of December. But Finding Messiah in Christmas...
That's nice you give them permission.
Do whatever you want. It's yours. Go ahead. Zeitgesund, as you would say.
Zeitgesund.
Okay, so you can get it by going to christmasisjewish.org, which, Steve, we have to say this. When a friend of ours looked up online, they were telling them that somebody emailed in and said, I can't get to christmasisjewish.org. And the reason why was because they were typing it into the Google search, not into the URL. And so they would type in Christmas is Jewish, and Google AI would write back and say to the person, you are wrong. Christmas is not Jewish. And they type in, no, Christmas is Jewish. And then they would write back, no, Christmas is not Jewish. We're here to tell AI, Google AI right now, okay? It's artificial.
AI is not always right.
It's sometimes very stupid because Christmas is the most Jewish thing that you could possibly imagine. You don't have Christmas Christmas unless you have the prophecies of the Old Testament. So if you want to find out more about the prophecies leading up to the birth of Jesus, all you got to do is go to christmasisjewish.org, and there you can download your free digital download of Finding Messiah in Christmas. We have the paper versions here, but Steve, you wanted to go through a few of these in the time that we have.
I did. We started off, I wrote an introduction, and I will take a lot of time simply to talk about the difference between a trip and a journey. A trip. I write, trips are about the destination, not the trek to get there. Journeys are different. Taking a journey produces reflection. And so we believe that Finding Messiah in Christmas, very short, about 350 words each day, but it's a journey in the month of December leading up to to Christmas. The day we have to make sure we understand, because some of at least one or two of our listeners is going to say, we don't know that Christ was born on Christmas. And I agree with them 100%. But I am glad that there is a tradition of really taking the time to thank God for the birth of Jesus. And so it is on the 25th. I know the background. So we're going to utilize what man has done as far as setting out a day and use it for God's glory by focusing in on the birth of Jesus, not necessarily the exact date, but that's what we're going to do.
I say the same thing about the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, because I know people don't like the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. It even makes some people cry when they see all the religiosity in there. But whenever I go in there, I like to remind people where you're standing could be a tire store right now in Jerusalem, or a gas station, or a Walmart, whatever it is. But instead, it's kind of set aside as something sacred because of the history that's there. And we don't know if this is the exact location and all of these things, but at least it's a place that
it's a remembrance.
It's a place that you can remember. You might not like all the things that are going on, but at least you don't have to sit there and stand in a grocery store and say, it might have been right below the meat section here, okay?
Well, on our Canadian tour, we have John Plants, who is just great. I love going with him. He and I started the Canadian trip to Israel, and he finds a story in the Bible, it's all true, and he will find the place close enough to where it possibly could be. We've read scripture verse in a parking lot. It's hard to get into, whatever this was. Here's a parking lot. Well, your point is well taken. At least it's set aside, regardless of all the other trappings. It's set aside for Jesus.
100%.
And that's a good thing. So the first day started off with David Levy, Jewish believer, talking about the promise of salvation, and he uses Genesis 3:15. I'll put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. And so David takes that very first prophecy right after sin came into the world, and now the focus of the scripture is going to look forward to the Messiah. Why don't you take day 2?
Yeah, and can I just add to that too, Steve?
Sure.
Is that if there is the right away in the Bible, this is we see Christmas coming right away in the Bible. That's the big thing to see here, is that in Genesis 3:15, the moment after Adam and Eve fail and sin and fall and sin enters into the world and judgment comes, God immediately begins the process of redemption and gives us the big, huge picture. We're not talking about the details yet. We're not talking about where the Messiah would be born, how he would be born, and we're not talking about the details. God gives us the big painting picture that there would be someone who would come in the flesh, a man that would come, who would stomp out this serpent once and for all and deliver people from their sins.
Amen.
All right, so
tell us about day 2. Tim Munger wrote day 2.
Tim Munger, our Church Ministries representative in Detroit, Michigan, writes about the real Lion King. I like that title.
That was a great illustration.
The scepter shall not depart from Judah, Genesis 49:10, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh comes, and to him shall be the obedience of the people. Again, the picture that, as we're kind of using this funnel, we had Genesis 3:15, the big picture. Now we're beginning to see that God's going to actually choose a specific tribe, that this king, this ruler, the one through whom salvation would come, would ultimately come through, and that's the tribe of Judah. And so as Jacob is going through the list of all of his sons, he specifically chooses Judah, and Judah being the one through whom the promised Messiah would come, the King of Israel, the one that would rule. The real Lion King.
The real Lion King. And then Bruce Scott writes on day number 3, born of a virgin. So we go all the way from Genesis to the prophet Isaiah. And Chris, this is a Jewish one that's difficult. It's difficult for Jewish people. It's one that we meditate on and think about when it's ever first presented to us. I know I did as well, because Isaiah 7:14 says, the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son and call his name Emmanuel. Most Jewish people center on the virgin part. The other part, that's, at least for me, Emmanuel, God with us.
Yep.
So a virgin has a baby, which Chris, honestly, when I was in high school and college, I used to tell Christians, look, we're Jewish. We don't believe that. Mary fooled around. She had to have a story, a way to get out of it. So it was, you have this story, and that's it. Well, boy, Chris, I had to use this. Scripture verse was pointed out to me that I knew but didn't think about, and that's Sarah. Mm-hmm. Sarah is 90 years old giving birth when her husband is 100, and we know that that's not possible. And we know it, by the way, because the text says so.
Yep.
And she laughed.
She laughed at it.
She laughed at it.
Yep.
It's over. There's no gleam in Abraham's eye, and there's certainly that ship has sailed.
That ship is sailed.
So it's over. And what happens? What happens? Sarah is pregnant.
Yeah.
A year after those visitors came, less than a year later. And if God could do that, then hey, all bets are off, right? If God does that, a woman who's past prime to get pregnant with an old guy who's we think is past his prime, although we find out later he does father some other kids. But if that's true, then this is a miracle birth. It's possible, and that's the way I thought about it.
And it's interesting too that God came first. It wasn't just something that happened. The 3 individuals show up, and that was God. It says it was God.
Yep.
God came. Now, God didn't miraculously in that moment make her pregnant. It happened through natural means, but it still was a miraculous event.
100%.
God came and said it would happen, just as God came to Miriam, or the angel came to Mary, and eventually had to tell Joseph this happened this way. But still, and I'll highlight too, in Isaiah 7:14, technically the Hebrew word, Steve, is Alma, which just means young woman. Yep. I've heard arguments from Jewish people saying, the word just means young woman. It doesn't mean virgin.
They're absolutely right.
Yeah.
100%. That's not an issue.
That's not. But what happens is the Jewish people also, they were the ones to translate the Hebrew into Greek. And so not the Christians, when the Jewish people about 200 years prior to Jesus' coming translate the Hebrew into Greek, they didn't use the word young woman. They actually used the word where we get the Parthenon from Athens, Greece. That Parthenon means a virgin. That's
Parthenos.
Parthenos, that's right. And so the same word is used in Isaiah 7:14 in the Greek translation of the Hebrew
Jewish
Bible.
People translate.
They could have used any word. They used, which means that's what they understood about a messianic coming.
They were contextual in their translation.
100%.
Fair enough. All right. The last one, December 4th, that we're going to cover, God incarnate, Isaiah 9:6. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder, and his name will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Paul Pierce wrote this one, and a great job in talking about the future ruler who is born, yet his name is God.
100%. And you know what else, too? What people don't ever talk about is that it says that the government will be on his shoulders, which means that it's an earthly, what we're going to see in the millennial kingdom is Jesus come down, and the government, the way things are governed around the world, will be done with justice and righteousness and peace because he's sitting on the throne. Now we're thinking about the future, but that no one really, they always just think about the son who's given as the Christmas story, but he's given for a reason, that the government might rest on his shoulders and he would bring justice, righteousness, and peace. All right, Steve, we're going to continue our study through the Finding Messiah in Christmas. If you'd like, we didn't read any of this, I promise. We're just going piece by piece. So if you'd like to read through our devotional series, go to christmasisjewish.org. We're giving it away for free. But while you're there at foiequip.org, be sure to donate to give to our $25,000 that we're trying to raise to help continue doing ministry through FOI Equip. Again, that's foi.org FOI.org, and then click on that donate button. All right, Steve, let's talk about what's going on in the news.
Well, I don't have it. I thought I had it. The one about the thought police.
The thought police.
The thought police, where he's praying.
Oh, yeah. Here, right here.
Okay.
You got it.
I don't have, okay, here we go. Okay. Chris, I saw this, and this is in Canada. It says, this was the press release, I forgot where it's from. Legal help. It doesn't say. We'll have to find it when we put it in the show notes.
Oh, they're in there.
The show notes. Okay. The headline is Guilty. Army vet convicted for praying silently near abortion facility.
And the picture is him in this, just standing there with his head down, not saying anything. Bupkis.
Exactly. Bupkis. I don't know. I had it underlined. Oh, wait, here it is. I found it.
Yep.
Okay, good. You have yours back. So the court sentenced Smith Connor to a conditional discharge and ordered him to pay prosecution costs at £9,000.
Wait, is this Canada or
no,
UK?
I think it's UK.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. That was my fault. A conditional discharge is a type of conviction that means Smith Connor will only be sentenced if he is convicted of any future offenses in the next 2 years. So in other words, he's fined. He's guilty of thinking. He's guilty of thinking.
Yep.
And now there are thought police who are out because he did bow. No question. It could be assumed, but you don't know for sure, but it could be assumed if a person has their head bowed and their hands clasped, that's the prayer position that most people know. But he's not yelling at anybody. He's not doing, but they have these zones in the UK that you are not even allowed to think prayer or be in a posture of prayer because it's offensive to the people who are coming into that zone to use that abortion clinic.
You know, I was telling you this, on my way to the gym that I go to, there's a Catholic church, and then right next to it is a Planned Parenthood. And all along the public part, you know, you have your front yard, and then you have the sidewalk, and then you have that one little strip of grass.
That apron, like with the grass.
That's right.
Yep.
I know that in every town is different, but where we are, that's public space, you know, that area out there. So the Catholics will come out from that church, and they'll stand, sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 7. They'll stand out there and they'll do exactly what this guy did. And you'll just see them with their hands down and they're just praying in front of the Planned Parenthood. And police are going by all the time. You know, nobody says a thing. Nothing, because they're on public property. This is different. This is somebody who isn't even going near they're away from the building. They're standing away from the building.
They are in the zone
but they're
created
in
by
the
the government.
That's right.
They're in a zone.
They're in the thought zone.
That's right.
And
it's like the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. Imagine if, you know, they're convincing that, or saying that he's praying. They don't know what he's doing in his brain, but I think he admits that he's praying.
Oh, no question.
But that was enough for him to be convicted.
That's just that caught my eye, Chris, because, you know, how long did it? Great Britain used to be one of the places that Christianity was so strong, and now they have thought police for people who pray. You know, it's a red flag.
Some of our greatest. Some of the early dispensational thinkers were coming from England. So much so that one of the individuals who helped my man back here, Theodore Herzl, who was Reverend William Heckler, was a Bible-believing Anglican who helped him, and he believed that all Christians should love Jewish people and that the Jewish people should be restored to their ancient homeland according to what the biblical prophecies taught. That all came from England. That was all coming out of England.
And be honest, Chris, Herzl loved him, but also thought he was
Oh, he thought it was cuckoo.
He was a French fry short of a Happy Meal.
He writes that down.
Oh, he talked, doesn't use McDonald's as the example, but he said he connected so well with big wigs in government, and he wondered, how did this guy get this contact? This guy is amazing. Okay, he likes the Bible. Good enough for me, because he was secular. Yep. Herzl was secular.
100%. Anyway, that's another show. We need to talk about
the next one, Chris, I'll read the headline. You talk about it. Anti-Semitic incidents rose. Oh, Chris, this saddens me. Australia, I was there back in 2018 or 17. Oh, just a great trip. Australia is a great place. But anti-Semitic incidents have gone up 300% since October 7th of 2023.
Australia saw 65 anti-Jewish physical assaults in the year, according to the ECAJ, which I don't know exactly what the ECAJ is. I'll have to see if the Executive Council of Australian Jewry, it was a report, and including that of a 44-year-old Jewish man who was called a Jew dog and gang beaten by 3 in Sydney Park on October 28th, so not long after October 7th, 2023.
Isn't that interesting? Israel gets attacked, and people hate Jews.
That's right. I just did an article for an editorial for Israel My Glory that'll come out in the next issue, and the question was, is anti-Zionism anti-Semitism? And this is a great question because a lot of people like to say, well, I can hate Israel. I can believe Israel can't exist and still like and appreciate and love Jewish people. And it actually is what has happened to Jewry around the world with the rise of anti-Semitism is a perfect example that anti-Zionism does equal anti-Semitism, because what happens in the tiny state of Israel has had ripple effects all around the world, to the point where, look, it's not even 4 weeks after October 7th, and a person is beaten up at 44 years old, called a Jew dog because of Israel. What does Israel have to do with Australia? But it's because they're Jewish. You're seeing the events that are taking place in Israel having a profound effect on Jewry around the world. So is anti-Zionism anti-Semitism? Yes. When you want to deconstruct, eliminate, push into the sea the only Jewish state in the entire world that's only the size of New Jersey, you've got a Jewish problem. You don't have just a country. Look, you can criticize Israel all you want. You can criticize the government. You can hate Netanyahu. You can do all that. That's fine. That doesn't mean you're an anti-Zionist. When you hate Israel so much that it compels you to hate other Jews, then that just goes to show that the two are one and the same.
France has told its Jewish citizens, this is in France, and it's been irritated since October 7th of last year, and they're saying, don't wear a yarmulke. Don't have a mezuzah on your doorpost. We can't guarantee your safety. Why are Jewish people in France in danger? In danger. Mm-hmm. And especially since October 7th. And a government is saying so. So it's crazy.
I was at the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League's big gala that they do called A Concert Against Hate at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. A good friend of mine invited me down. And it was a very fascinating thing. And the CEO, Jason Greenblatt, he said something fascinating. And it was a very humbling thing that he said. He goes, we've been around since 1913, I think, the ADL, which the whole point of the organization is to fight anti-Semitism. And he says, I don't think we're doing that great of a job. And of course, it's not the ADL's fault. The ADL does amazing work in education against anti-Semitism, highlighting great statistics. We've used their statistics on the rise of anti-Semitism. He's saying, you'd think we'd be around for this long and we would not be dealing with this issue after more than 100 years. But really, the reality is that anti-Semitism isn't getting better. It's getting worse, especially after October 7th.
Well, segueing from there to the Jerusalem Post article, Chris, I thought this was really worth mentioning. And we joke about it, but we're putting this in the show notes, and they're going to have to read it because you and I are just going to name these 10 things, an IDF reservists' top 10 takeaways after returning from Gaza. So this is an article by Michael Starr, who is IDF reservist, and he is coming from Gaza, and he's giving us 10 takeaways. So they'll have to read it more in depth, a couple paragraphs per point, but you and I will just tag team and read the individual ones. You start with number one.
Number one is his number one point is the IDF is winning and needs to be allowed to win.
Number two, Gaza has suffered heavy damage.
Number three, Gaza was far from an open-air prison.
Number four, Hamas weaponized Gaza.
Number five, the IDF is not conducting a genocide.
Number six, the IDF needs to restore discipline.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Number seven, trust has been eroded in military leadership. Hey.
Number eight, reservists are frustrated with domestic squabbles. That's a big one.
Definitely. Number nine, the IDF needs more soldiers.
And number 10, soldiers deserve victory.
That's a big one.
I love that one.
Yep, that's a big one.
And I encourage our listeners to go scroll down, because that's the only way I can find it. I needed help, but scroll down and you'll find each of the articles we have in the show notes so that you can read them.
All right, everybody, Yiddish word of the day as we wrap up here. Steve and I thought long and hard about this one, and we wanted to go back to the top 25 Jewish, what is it? Success in business from a Jewish perspective, the top 25 things. And so this is where we get our Yiddish word. Steve, take it away.
The Yiddish word for the day is Farshtay.
Farshtay.
My parents use this one all the time. It means, do you understand? Understand? Do you get it? Farshtay?
Did they say that to you a lot?
That's why I graduated in the top 10% of the lower third of my class. I didn't understand.
Oh, that's good. All right, so Farshtay.
That's it.
So we're saying, if you want to do good in business, Farshtay. Do you understand what we're telling you?
Do you understand what we're saying?
Okay. Do you understand anything we're saying? That's the question.
You and I don't understand anything. Bupkis.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being a part of the Jew and Gentile podcast. I hope you Farshtay. I also hope that you go to foiequip.org because there you can help us raise $25,000 before the end of the year to help continue.
Just because we asked.
Just because we asked, all the great, amazing things that we're doing with interns, with trips that help bless Israel and the Jewish people, with training people to minister to their Jewish friends that are right around the corner, maybe their Jewish family. All of it is happening right here at FOI Equip, and we want you to participate. And we're asking you, would you help? Go to foiequip.org and click on that donate button. Also, I didn't get a chance to mention this, but Steve, you and I are doing a Hanukkah class soon, coming up in December. Did you know that?
I kind of did.
All right, well, you need to go to foiequip.org to register for that free class. Hey, everybody, guess what? We'll see you next week.